Oh, there we go. Now you can hear me, hopefully. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's having a great day so far. I hope everyone's ready for a great weekend. I know I sure am. I live in Kansas City, so there's a kind of a big football game happening. American football. For those of you who are, if you're watching from outside, Patrick Mahomes, you might have heard of him. He's going for a third Super Bowl appearance. It's pretty exciting. So, anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Tableau and data visualization and survey data and all that kind of fun stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into that. We are ready to go. So let's take a look at what we're going to be dealing with. This is my challenge. So it's going to look a little bit different, right? Because obviously I know how to do this one already, but I'll still walk you through it. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So we're visualizing Likert data and NPS. So this is kind of you can think about this as a floating bar chart or a diverging bar chart, but essentially this is what we're going to be building. And if we take a look at what the actual data looks, if we take a look at the actual dashboard, we can see here are the questions that were asked in our survey. And then here are the, here's how everybody responded, positive or negative, or promoters, detractors, right? So we've got kind of the percentage of who was neutral, who were positive, who was negative. You can kind of see those, and then we have an overall NPS score, which is a net promoter score. And if you're ever curious what an NPS is, it's basically, it can be thought of as a couple different things, right? One is the sum of the positive plus the sum of the negative multiplied by 100. It can also be basically the percentage of people that, if you've ever seen a question like how likely are you to recommend this product or service to a friend, that's a net promoter score. Right? That's a net promoter question, right? So that's the kind of stuff that you can do here. And then you can kind of see which question has the highest net promoter score, who has the lowest, and that kind of thing. So this is what we're going to build. This is a really great, useful skill to have. Survey data can be messy, can be hard, can be not fun. And let's see. Do I? Yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So go into Tableau. We're going to connect to data. It's a Microsoft Excel file, and it's random survey data. And so you can see here, this is what we get, right? All of our questions are, each of our questions are columns, and then we have different values. This is gross. It's gross because this is not well formatted for how we want Tableau to visualize data. So this is a great way to kind of think about data structure and horizontal versus vertical, right? Right now, each row is a respondent, right? And attached to each row is all of their questions, right? So all of their questions are essentially measures, if you will. So what we need to do first, and the first thing that you might have tried or thought about is, we could set this up as, we would have, if we wanted to build this in the form that it's in the structure that it's in currently, each one of these would have to be a separate sheet. Blah, right? And then we would have to line it up, and we'd have to mess with the axes, and blah. Don't want to do that. No, thank you. So what we're going to do instead is we need to figure out how to get a question into we need to get each question into a single column, and then have another column for responses. So that's what we're going to do. And the way that Tableau makes it really easy to do that, we're just going to select all of our questions. So I selected the first one, Scroll all the way over to the last one. Hold Shift and click to highlight all of those columns in between. Then I'm going to click on the little chevron of any of the highlighted ones. And I'm going to select Pivot. Okay? What that's going to do is it's basically going to pivot those. It's going to pivot. That's what it's going to do. So now I have pivot field names, pivot field values, right? So this is going to be question. This is going to be question concatenated, right? Because we have design dash question. And then we have pivot field values, which I'm just going to call response, right? While I'm here, I'm also going to do a little bit of data cleaning. I'm going to do a custom split. I'm going to split on space dash space. And I'm only going to take, I'm going to take all of them, right? Just because. So use the separator. Custom splits are really powerful because you can do a delimiter on anything. You could do it on a single letter, on a group of letters. If you wanted to split it, if you've got, your data structure, you've got a column of data, and let's say you wanted to split it, I don't know, really on anything you wanted, right? And as long as it finds that match, it'll split it on that match. And then I want to split off every single index of that. I want the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. I want all of them, right? But you can also specify how many columns from the left do you want, right? And I want all of them. So I'm just going to do that. And you can see I get question concat split 1, split 2. And now I'll call this category. And I'm going to call this question. There we go. All right. So that looks good. All right, I think we're ready. We're done in the data prep data window here. So let's go ahead and go to our sheet. And the first thing that we need to figure out is we need to figure out sentiment, right? So if we look at, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all of my questions, and we're going to figure out which ones are negative sentiment questions, right? So easily understood the product, that's positive. Aesthetically pleasing, positive. No trouble. My peers can afford. Product will not last. Not, right? So that's a negative. So let's do that. Let's highlight that one. Has a functional design. Is affordable. Is deformed. Uh-oh, that's also negative. So let's highlight that one. Is made from high quality products. Is not worth the price. That's another negative. Product saves me valuable effort, valuable time, durable, free from scratches, unintuitive, right? So we have 4 questions here that are not, that are in the negative sentiment questions. So we need to separate these out because a strongly agree with a negative sentiment is actually a detraction, right? Whereas, a strongly agree and a positive sentiment is a promoter, right? So we just need to figure out those because agree can be, different things. So that's what we need to figure out. That's why we're going to separate these. Okay? And what we're going to do is, all right. So what we're going to do now that we're over here is we are going to right click once we have all of these together, and we're going to group. Right? And we've got all of those are grouped together. It created a new dimension called question group. I'm going to edit that group. I'm going to rename the name of this to negative. I'm going to include other, which is going to group everything else together. But then I'm going to rename that other group to positive. All right, just like that. So we have two, and we'll call this sentiment. So this is how you can kind of use Tableau to your advantage, right? We don't need to necessarily create a calculated field. I sure could have. I absolutely could have created a case statement, and I would have had to, I would have had to copy the exact text of the question for each one, for each negative sentiment, and say then negative, else positive. That would have taken a while, and it also opens up the ability or possibility, not ability, the possibility of doing it, of fat fingering things, not getting the text exactly right, that kind of thing. This way is a little bit more intuitive. It's a little bit more user friendly. So there we go. Now we have negative, positive. All right. Now what we need to do, we're going to click OK. The way that I did this, there are multiple ways of solving this this challenge. We're just going to go over the way that I did it. And then you can search the hashtag WOW22 or WOW2023 on Twitter or LinkedIn, and people will have their solutions or their, the way that they did it. And you can reverse engineer to see all the different ways that people do it. So the next thing that we need to do, right? So we have these responses, right? So if we look at these again, we have 5 responses. What we need to do is we need to figure out a way to kind of group everything together, right? And we need to actually assign some values to that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create a calculated field. And of course Tableau, because I'm using dual screens, Tableau likes to just never likes to put the calculated field window in the right place. It always just puts it wherever you want, and then you have to go searching for it. It's kind of like, where's Waldo, but where's my calculated field? And I'm going to call this value. All right. And essentially what I'm going to do is if, and this is going to be kind of long, so, but if response equals strongly agree and sentiment equals positive, then 5. All right? And then I'm just going to do every combination thereof on down, right? So agree positive is 4, neutral positive is 3, so on and so forth, right? So let me show you what this looks like. Again, because I created this challenge, we can go a little bit faster, right? Yeah, we'll get rid of that. So strongly agree positive. I mean, again, there are so many different ways that you could do this. If you really wanted to be, we could have done this as a nested if, which is kind of the same thing as and. But anyway, I did this, and now what we need to do is we did all the positives, right? Here are all the positives. Now we just need to reverse it to get the right, to get the negatives. And when I say we need to reverse it, I literally mean reverse it, right? So strongly agree and negative is going to have the exact same value as strongly disagree positive, because it's a detractor, right? It's not a promoter, it's a detractor. They agree that this is bad, right? They strongly agree that this is bad. That's not good. That is also the same thing. That also has the exact same value as I strongly disagree that this is good, right? Those equate to the same value, right? So that's what that is. So I strongly disagree that this is bad, right? It's kind of a weird way to say it. It's kind of like that double negative thing. So anyway, so then we'll just end this. And now we've got that. So that's our value, right? All right. Now, I use the values just because it's going to be easier for me later. Because I've already created this value field, it's going to be a lot easier for me to kind of create other calculated fields. I'm actually not going to use I wanted to turn them into integers because integers are better and easier for me they're faster, right? It's less typing, keystrokes, that's all it is. So just kind of be aware of that, okay? So here's what we're going to do. What we need to do now is we need to start grouping and figuring out the percentages of negatives, neutrals, and positives, right? So let's start with the negatives because I think those are going to be the easiest to understand, right? So these are the detractors. And what it's going to be is if the value that I just created is in 1 or 2, then 1 else 0 end. So what are we talking about here? 1, we're using the n function, or the n, it's not a function, operator, the n operator, more recently released operator in Tableau, came out in 2021 maybe, I can't remember exactly, but you can use the n, right? So if the value is in 1 or 2, then assign that row a 1, else 0, right? So this is going to give me a count for every single person who thought negatively of these questions. So that is the number of detractors, right? But if we look at our example again, we're not interested in the number, we're interested in the percentage of total. So what we need to do now is we need to divide this by the number of responses. And then when you do that, Tableau automatically says, it automatically drags out a count of rows. And that makes this denominator an aggregate. This one is not an aggregate. It's a row level calculation, but we can just wrap this in a sum. And that's going to give us our percentage, right? So now we'll do percent detractors. And actually, again, if we look at this, we want the detractors to be negative. So instead of positive 1, we'll just do it. We're just going to return a negative 1, right? I'm going to duplicate this field, and we're going to do it for the promoters, right? This is the positives. It's very simple. It's 1 and 2. Instead of 1 and 2, it's 4 and 5, right? Those are the agree and strongly agree, or strongly disagree, and depending on sentiment, right? This is where you can kind of see why doing the value calculation is becoming so important, right? And so much more easier in the long run. So 4 and 5s are promoters accounting for sentiment. We want it to be positive, so it's a positive 1. We'll change this to promoters. Click OK. While we're here, let's go ahead and change the default properties of this to a percentage and 1 here. All right. Now, what we need to do is we need to figure out the neutrals. But what you can see here is we have the neutrals are splitting the zeros, right? So we have these negative bars that are going over. They're kind of splitting the 0, right? So what we need to do is we need to only do it for half of the responses for negative and half of the responses for positive, and then we get our and then that's how we can kind of do that on both sides, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to call these negative, right? Percent neutral negatives, or neutral detractors, and that's going to be if my value is equal to 3, then -1, else 0, and but I only want half of that value, right? I only want half of them because I want the other ones to be, I want that to be summed up. And I want to divide that by 2. But I still want to take it multiplied by the total number of respondents. So again, let's use our parentheses to make sure that we're capturing exactly what we want. And then we'll bring in that right there. So if the value is equal to, if the value is equal to 3, give us a -1, but divide it by 2, right? Divided by the total number of respondents. I hate when I do that. Let's do this again. Percent neutral detractor. That's going to be, again, sum if value equals 3. Then -1, else 0, and that's summed up, divided by 2. Take that product, that result, take that result, and divide it by, there, and divide it by the total number of records. Click OK. Change that. Number format, percentage, no decimal places. Now we'll just duplicate this to get our other side. All right, and that's neutral promoters. So by doing this, we're going to get the same number on each side of the 0. And then whenever we put everything together, that's when we're able to do this. So let's start taking a look at this. Here's every single question. Let's go ahead and make this entire view. Measure names. No measure names. I want promoters, neutral detractors, and detractors. Measure values. Going to go in columns. All right, you can start to see how this is going to look, right? And I'll take measure names and I'll drop it on color. I'll go ahead and change my colors real quick. I use Nuriel Stone. Love Nuriel Stone. I think it's a great color palette. We've got promoters. Promoters are this teal color. Detractors are this yellow color. and then both of the neutrals are gray. Right? Now you can see I don't have anything, it's not quite in the right order. So what I need to do is I need to drop this down here. And there we have and there we have it, right? So that's how it's able to get together. Thank you, Sam, yes. I gripped them as well. Yep, did a question times response sentiment. Excellent, good job, yes. I was just checking the chat, good job. Hey, good to see you, Jack and Sam. Appreciate you tuning in. It's always good to see you. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is figure out how to do the NPS score, right? Because that's how we're going to do our sort, right? So what we need to do is we're going to create a calculated field. And I gave you the formula for this in the requirements, which is it's going to be the promoters. Yep. Percent. And it's actually not the, I can't remember if it's, I can't remember exactly. Yeah. Yep, this should work. All right, positive plus the detractors multiplied by 100. Right? And I'm gonna round this also because I don't want any. I'm gonna round it. Round it one more time. Round it here. All right, so we're going to take the sum of, for each question, we're going to take the sum of promoters plus the sum of the detractors multiplied by 100. We call this NPS. And we'll do that. I'm going to change this to discrete just to make sure it's looking right. It looks good, all right? And now what we can do, I'll take that off. We can take our question. We can do a sort descending field NPS. Just like that. All right. We are so close. So now next we need to do, here was my little nugget of trickery with this one is show mark labels, right? That's going to show mark labels on our positives and negatives, but on my final presentation, I only show the positive and negative. I didn't show the neutrals because the neutrals are the same value on either side. What's happening, right? How did I do this? Well, I don't know if you ever knew this. Again, some of you did because it looked like you figured it out, which is great. But if you select a mark after you've selected show mark labels that you don't want to show, you don't want to see, right click on that mark label, never show. And it gets rid of it. So yes, you do have to go through and do it for every single one. I know it's tedious. I'm sorry, but the end result is better, right? So for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. You don't need to see me right click for that many times. So now I guess I could, if I wanted to, I could probably click and drag, right? I could do this, but then I kind of mess up, right? So I guess we could start. I guess that would work, wouldn't it? I wonder if that would work. I don't know if it would work. I guess we'll try. Because if so, that would be a really handy trick, right? So I just did it right down the zero. So I highlighted all of my grays. I can right click, mark label, never shows. It turned off. Look at that. My goodness. That's awesome. Oh man, that took me a long time the first time I did this. I'm so glad that worked. That's a neat little trick. I'm going to have to stow that one in my back pocket. Oh, yeah, we did. Oh, yeah, label. Yep, you could do a label. Yep, I like that. You can select all of the grays. Yep, yep. So I did, yep, very good. I like the percent label. That's a good one. Can you select the legend on that trick? Ooh, let's try that. So he's saying here, highlight selected items. I did that. Title. I don't see. I don't want to hide them because that takes it away. Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, Jack. So do a highlight, right, and do that, and then do that. No, it doesn't work. I don't think so because it only does. Yeah. So you're highlighting. Yes. So you can. So what Jack was saying was to do. So highlight both of these in the legend, and then right click on any of the marks. But it only does it for the selected mark, right? Unless I'm missing something, right? Hide, assign, sort, clear sort. I don't see anything in the color or in the legend menu, but yeah, I think you got to select it all. But this was a really cool trick. I really like this. Yep. All right, there you go. All right, so that was really cool. I wish I'd known that beforehand, but there you go. Okay, so now that we know that the next thing we need to do is we need to have our NPS. All right, so we need to have our NPS as a value here. So I know it's kind of silly, but we actually need to duplicate this. Because what I did right now, our axis, if we look at this, our axis is, our decimal points are off, right? So what I need to do here is I just need to duplicate this, edit it, get rid of the copy, call it mark, NPS mark, and then get rid of the minus or the multiply by 100. That way our decimal places are on the same. I have the same significant digits on both sides, or for both marks. Click OK. NPS mark. Drag that up to columns, and get rid of the round. That's the other thing I had to get rid of. There we go. So, got a nice little tornado chart. Don't want the tornado chart. I wanted the circles. Go circles. Remove measure. Oh, yeah. Measure names is also... I'll remove measure names from color only on the bottom one. I will now take my NPS score, drop that onto label. Format it to no decimal places. There we go. Now do a little bit more formatting, size this up a little bit. And then of course Tableau is going to be kind of silly when I do that label centered. And I think I dropped the opacity quite a bit so that it flows through here. So now I can go here, I can do that, and then Tableau's like, I don't know what kind of marks you want, so I think you all want circles, of course. Thanks, Tableau. No, measure values, I still want them as bars. I wish you could lock that. I wish there was a way you could lock that. That would be cool. Okay, so now we just need to synchronize. And we'll do that. And that looks good. And then, so this is where things get a little wonky, right? So you can see I've got some overlapping labels here. I'm going to get rid of this header. Oh, good call, Sam. If I changed it to, oh, because I had it as automatic. That makes total sense. Yep. So that's why your mark type, make your mark type, right? So Tableau will figure out what you want. It'll say what you want. And then it'll try and figure it out. And then, but if you specify marks and then you do a dual axis, it'll stay as a dual axis. Is that true? I don't know. Because I had to select bars because it started off as circles. So if I do bar and now I do my MPS mark and I do that and then I do a dual axis, I've selected mark, I've selected bar as my top one. Of course now it's going to work because it's probably inherited the yeah, interesting. I guess we'll never know. There we go. Get that back. All right. I'll try that out. That's good. I like that. Sam. That could possibly work. Okay, back to this. What I need to do now is I need to figure out these mark labels because especially on this one, it's overlapped. So if you ever want to move your individual mark labels, just select the mark. It'll show you that mark label, and then you'll get a little crosshair, and then you can just move it to wherever you want. I'll move it over here. Just like that. Now, I'll go back here. I will increase my opacity a little bit more. Can't remember what color I had. Yeah, that looks good. And I think I had like a white border around the circle just to make it pop a little bit more. We'll move this guy over a little bit. There we go. Just kind of make it look right, you know? And then we just do some formatting. We'll do some formatting here. We'll get rid of grid lines and borders. I also added row banding because I think row banding helps. I think row banding is better, in my personal opinion. Row banding is better than borders. That's just my personal preference. I know there are others who are in the opposite camp, but that's just how I feel. Okay, next thing, we're gonna format the axis here. Format the scale. It's going to be a percentage with no decimal places. And the next thing we need to do is we need to edit our axis, edit our tick marks, fixed. I did major tick marks at every half and minor at every 20%. I don't know why. I know that 50 kind of splits the difference. So 50 splits between 40 and 60, but this is just, I just like it. I just like the way, again, it's just how I feel. And whenever you're doing challenges like these, that's kind of what you get to do. So now I want to point out something since he's on here. Sam, in his solution, noticed that my bars weren't the same length. So let's try that. I'm going to start my cursor. So 180 or 1180 to 518. $662. That's the length. Okay, let's look at this one. I know I'm going to be a little off, right? Because I'm using my cursor. I'm using crosshairs to kind of eyeball it, but Oh, whoop! And I didn't even grab the number. All right. so we're at 11:59 to 5:18. What did I say it was? 5:18 again. Yeah, 11:59. So yeah, sure enough, that they're not going to be the right size. So they look correct here. Not sure if you did something on your solution. Yeah, I probably did do something differently. So there you go. In my published solution, I had doubled my positive neutral length, right? So that would have messed things up. Things look great here, which is great, excellent, love it. I think I need to do an axis ruler, right? I think I have a on my columns. I have an axis ruler, dark black. There we go, and then I have black tick marks as well. So there you go. That is how we do it. And then we just put it into a dashboard and we call it good. Oh, the last thing. If you're new to Tableau and you're like, hey, how did you do the whole thing where you didn't show your... So on my solution, if we go back to my solution, you see here that I can hover on I get the little hand on the questions, but I can't click any of the bars. All right, how do we do that? Yep, good, thank you, Jack. So if you're wondering how I did that, this is kind of a sneaky little trick again, but that's how we work. I changed my objects to floating, and then I just take a blank out here, and then I just put a giant blank down over this whole thing. And because floating objects are always on top of container objects, the blank object is on top. There's nothing inside of it or around it to select. Therefore, you can't select anything. So that's a little trick. If you're ever making a chart that you need to, again, you're trying to manipulate how Tableau does things, and you don't want to confuse your end users because you've gotten them ingrained to hovering and clicking and looking at tooltips and stuff like that, but you don't want them to be looking at it and asking you why. You can just drop a blank on top of it and give them everything you need. I split my negative neutral proportions to the size of the positive, not originating at 0. Another way to do it. Yeah, I love it. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, there you go. That's how we did it. As you can see, there's a lot of great chat by two of our Workout Wednesday regulars, Sam and Jack. Appreciate you joining. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate your participation. It's always good. Give me a like. Give me a follow. Give me a subscribe. All that kind of fun stuff. Really helps the channel out. Oh yeah. So let's see. What else is going on? Yeah, so go Chiefs, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Go forth and viz.